It's Carers' Rights Day today, so thanks for joining to watch this presentation on carers' rights and, more importantly, how to use them. My name's Mike Rich, the Chief Executive of Barnet Carers, and I'm pleased to guide you through the essential rights and entitlements that are available to carers in the UK. Whether you're a carer yourself, you work with carers, or simply want to understand more, hopefully this session will equip you with the practical knowledge and the confidence to advocate for yourself or for others. But let's start by recognising that knowing your rights is absolutely the first step to using them effectively. As the first slide says, know your rights and use your rights. So, what are carers' rights and what are carers' entitlements? In the UK, carers have both rights and entitlements designed to support those who are in a caring role. These can include financial support, employment rights, access to services, support for your own health and well-being as a carer. But what do we mean by rights and what do we mean by entitlements? A right is a fundamental privilege or claim recognised and protected by law. But an entitlement is a specific benefit or privilege that you can claim, usually if you meet certain criteria that's been set down by law or policy. For example, the right to request flexible working is protected by law, while entitlement to carers allowance depends on you meeting eligibility criteria. It's important to note though, although it may not always feel like it, the UK has some of the strongest carers' rights in the world. So let's have a look at some of the legislation and statutory guidance. Carers' rights are underpinned by a range of legislation and statutory guidance, and you can see those in the slide here. The key laws include the Human Rights Act, the Employment Rights Act, the Equality Act, importantly for carers, the Care Act of 2014, the Children and Families Act of 2014, the Health and Care Act of 2022, the Employment Relations Flexible Working Act, and importantly again for carers, the Carers Leave Act of 2023. Each of these pieces of legislation play a role in protecting carers and ensuring that they have access to support, fair treatment at work, and recognition in society. It's important to stay informed about changes in legislation as statutory guidance is regularly updated. And I think it's important to say, if carers or staff don't know their rights, how can they possibly exercise them? This is a crucial point. If carers and staff aren't aware of their rights, it's almost impossible to exercise them. That's why we think sessions like this are so important. Knowledge is power and sharing information is absolutely key. And you can see much information that comes out of reputable sources such as Carers UK, Carers Trust and local authorities. It's important to know your rights, whatever the circumstances. Carers' rights apply in a variety of settings, at home, at work, and in hospital. These can include at home, the right to a carer's assessment, financial support and entitlements, such as benefits, and the right to access support. At work, you have the right to a protection from discrimination, to request flexible working, to get time off in emergencies, parental and shared parental leave, and time off for planned carers leave. In hospital, you have the right to be involved in care planning with the patient consent, and you have the right to have your carer role recognised in your medical records. You also have rights around discharge planning and being identified as a carer. At home, two key rights stand out. The right to request a carer's assessment from your local authority or from organisations like Barnet Carers. This assessment looks at how caring affects your life and what support you might need, such as respite care or help with household tasks. It gives you access to support services, both local and national, that can provide practical advice, information and support. Statutory guidance is currently under review, especially following changes introduced by the Health and Care Act in 2022, so always check for the latest information. There are also financial entitlements for carers, but many of these are conditional. So carers may be entitled to financial support. This depends on their circumstances. The main options at the moment are carers allowance. That's for those caring at least 35 hours a week for someone who is ill or disabled. There's carers credit, which is national insurance credit for carers who don't qualify for carers allowance, but do care for someone at least 20 hours a week. There's also universal credit, and this includes additional elements for carers who meet certain conditions. It's important to check eligibility criteria for each benefit, as these can change. We advise that you use an online benefits calculator and seek advice from organisations like Citizens Advice or turn to us. At work, carers have several important rights. The right to time off in emergencies so that you can care for dependents. Obviously, like everyone else, you have the right to parental and shared parental leave. And you have the right to protection from discrimination or harassment due to association with disability or age. The right to request flexible working has recently been enhanced by the Employment Relations Act of 2023, and the right to take up a week's unpaid leave to care was introduced in the Carers Leave Act 2023 as well. For more details, Carers UK provides an excellent resource called Your Rights to Work. In a hospital setting, the Health and Care Act of 2022 places a duty on NHS hospital trusts to involve unpaid carers as soon as possible when planning a patient discharge. This guidance emphasises identifying carers, keeping them safe during discharge and ensuring that they are signposted to support and an assessment of their needs. It's important no carer should be left without the adequate support or an assessment of their longer term needs if required. Again, Carers UK have an excellent resource around hospital discharge, and the link is on the slide below. If you are supporting someone in hospital, it's really important to ask to be involved in discharge planning as early as possible and stand up and identify yourself as a carer. Still related to hospital discharge, carers have the right in hospital to be identified. They have the right to be recognised and heard. If the patient consents, they've got the right to be involved in that discharge planning, and also to be supported with the right to their own needs assessment, whether or not the patient consents. This ensures that carers are not overlooked during critical transitions, such as hospital discharge, that can be a very worrying time for carers. Although it's not a legal right, best practice states that carers should register as a carer with their GP. This can help them access additional support such as free annual flu vaccinations, health checks and mental health services. It's a simple step that can make a difference to a carer's health and well-being. At Barnet Carers, when you register with us, we will automatically inform your GP unless you ask us not to. Of course, carers, like everybody else in this country, have a set of basic human rights. Human rights are basic rights which belong to everyone. They're based on universally agreed values and ensure that every individual's self-respect and dignity is not abused. There are two key national laws protecting human rights. They are the Human Rights Act and the Equality Act. These key rights include the right to respect for private and family life, home and correspondence, freedom from inhuman or degrading treatment, the right to be free from discrimination. In extreme circumstances, of course, they include your right to life. I'm going to have a look now at what's known as discrimination by association. This is an absolutely crucial protection for carers. You have the right not to be discriminated against because of your association with a disabled person. A landmark case that illustrates this is Coleman versus Attridge Law and Stephen Law of 2008. In this, Sharon Coleman's son, Oliver, was born with a rare condition affecting his breathing and hearing. Miss Coleman was harassed at work and denied flexible working arrangements that were available to other employees. She argued that she was targeted because she was caring for a disabled child, and the court importantly agreed. The ruling established that discrimination by association is unlawful. This case set an important precedent. Carers must be treated fairly and cannot be disadvantaged simply because of their caring responsibilities. So, as we come to the end of this presentation, I think it's important to reflect a little bit on why rights are so important. As Carers UK states, every country throughout the world relies on families and close friends to provide support. But without rights, carers can quickly be overwhelmed. Rights provide a balance and a basis on which families are able to ask for more help, so they have the opportunity of living a more fulfilled life. Rights aren't just legal protections, they're the foundation for a fairer and more supportive society. They empower carers to seek help, challenge unfair treatment, and maintain their own well-being. If you ever feel your rights are not being respected, seek advice from organisations like Carers UK, the Citizens Advice, your local authority, or organisations like ours, Barnet Carers. So just in summary, carers in the UK have a robust set of rights and entitlements covering financial support, workplace protections, involvement in care planning and protection from discrimination. However, knowing about these rights is only the first step. Using them confidently is what makes the real difference. So, stay informed about changes in legislation and guidance. Register as a carer with your GP to get that additional support. Use reputable sources for advice and advocacy. And don't hesitate to seek help if you encounter barriers. Thank you for listening today.